All right, we are live, ladies and germs. And tonight we saw NASCAR at Las Vegas, and quite frankly, I'm kind of got mixed feelings about this race tonight. We're going to be talking about all that, and plus some stuff that happened over the weekend, including one instance where NASCAR just completely dropped the ball. We're going to be getting to all that and more. So saddle up, lock and load. Cat, can you get off my leg, please? So saddle up, lock and load. This is the fuel. What's happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to tonight's edition of The Fuel, where tonight we're going to be reviewing the 2022 Pennzoil 400 from the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Obviously, lots to talk about tonight, but I guess my first thought on the whole thing was, we saw another solid race with the new car, but I tell you what, there's some things going on right now with this new car, that's got me having some mixed feelings, about this whole thing, including what happened tonight. And this is one of those cases where I really wish I did have co-comps, because I would like to have some people to bounce the shit off of, because it's just a mixed feeling for me tonight. Even though we did saw some pretty good racing, but what I've been seeing so far this season is, as the title of this review suggests, the name of this episode, a worrying trend has emerged with this new car. And that trend is way too many caution flags. So here's what I'm going to do, just to give you an idea. I'm going to go to Racing Reference, and what we're going to do is compare how many cautions we had. Now, obviously, it's going to be a little bit different. God fucking damn it. My internet's been really fucking just weird. Just had to spend a minute or two getting OBS up and running again, because it got disconnected, and with the way OBS has been recently, with how it keeps dropping frames and all that shit, kind of had to go back and do that shit. So, as I was saying before I got fucking rudely interrupted, Hold on, sneeze alert. Excuse me. Cats. Quit. Damn it. Alright, so let's go back to 2020. Cats. Quit. Jesus. What is up with you? Huh? What's up with you? Alright, so add display capture at existing. Transform, stretch the screen. Alright, there we go. Alright, so let's take a look at some stats. Okay, even though these are kind of switched around, let's look at some statistics from 2020. So 2020 Daytona 500, we had a total of 9 cautions and 24 lead changes. And then, even though they are switched around, the Pennzoil 400, which was the second race of the year, also had 9 cautions, 25 lead changes. And then California just had 3 cautions. So, grand total, that comes to 21 total cautions. And then let's go to (2022). We had 7 cautions in the Daytona 500. Hell? What was that noise? So we had 7 cautions in the Daytona 500, and then we've had a dozen cautions each in Las Vegas and Fontana. That's 31 total cautions. So when you look at the same 3 races from 2 years ago to right now, that's 10 additional caution flags that we've had so far in 2021 with this new car. Does that not trouble anybody right now? Where it seems like we're seeing a lot more caution flags with this new car than we have in recent years. It's honestly making me start to think that, did they make this car a little bit too tough to drive? And then of course there was the finish to the race, which we had, a long green flag run to kind of end that race. And it looked like we were heading towards a natural finish, a natural conclusion to that race, and then the fucking caution comes out because it never fucking fails for a caution to come out. And we have to go to overtime to get a finish, and I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm honestly fucking done with the overtime shit. I really am. It just makes it feel like a manufactured finish. And I'm just also going to be completely honest here, and this might rub some people the wrong way, but the guy who won the race tonight honestly shouldn't have won the race. I mean, did he have a solid run all day long? Yeah, but let's be completely honest here. Without that caution, he's not winning this race. Now, I realize that's motorsports and all, but I mean, what else do you want me to say? And I like Alex Bowman, but let's be honest here. This was not his race to win. It was only because of a caution late and him taking 2 tires, a bullshit strategy to win the race, to basically steal one. I don't find that interesting. I'm sorry. I mean, I would have rather preferred the race gone green the entire way and ended it that way. And yeah, I'm not a fan of Kyle Busch, but you know, if he would have won this race, then hey, good on him. But yeah, just not a fan with how it ended up. So I apologize if I seem a little lethargic. It's been a long weekend. But we got a few news articles to get to, and then we'll get into the review. So here we go. So just a couple of news articles to get to. One is kind of a news article. The other one is just kind of something I saw that I really wanted to talk about. But first off, we have another case of wheels falling off. This time it was the number 38 car for Front Row Motorsports at Auto Club last week. Let me... Alright. So NASCAR penalties. So on racingnews.com. So last week the NASCAR Cup Series raced in Fontana, California. The 2-mile Auto Club became the first intermediate track to host the next-gen car. After the race, NASCAR issued 3 suspensions. The Front Row Motorsports number 38 car driven by Todd Gilliland lost a wheel after the Stage 1 break. The loss of a wheel is in violation of 10.5.2.6 on the NASCAR rulebook. Loss or separation of an improperly installed tire or wheel from the vehicle with the note, loss of tire wheel during the event. The penalties were announced by NASCAR on Tuesday, which is sort of penalty day. But on Wednesday, Front Row Motorsports announced that they have appealed the penalty. Per the rules, 3 crew members were suspended for the next 4 races. Crew chief Seth Barber, jackman Jordan Osinski, and front tire changer Tanner Andrews. And Front Row Motorsports appealed the penalty. And any penalty issues can be appealed to the National Motorsports Appeal Board. The team stated on Wednesday, Front Row Motorsports has begun the appeal process after penalties levied against its number 38 NASCAR Cup Series team this past weekend at Auto Club Speedway. If the penalty is upheld by the appeals panel, then the team could send a final appeal to the final appeals officer. And of course, this is coming the week after Daytona, which 2 Cup teams suffered the same penalty, which saw 6 crew members suspended for the loss of a wheel, which was the 31 team and the 50 team. So, I understand giving out penalties for losing wheels, but I mean, 4 races for a loose wheel when we've seen that these wheels have had all sorts of problems with the lugs and shit. I mean, I think NASCAR needs to dial that back a bit. But of course, I'm not going to be done slamming NASCAR because, as it turned out, in the truck race on Friday night, NASCAR had kept the truck race green while Spencer Boyd was apparently crashed on the backstretch with 2 laps to go. I don't know if they knew that he was crashed back there, but they kept the race green, and then they only threw the caution when there was a crash on the front stretch on the white flag lap. But the fact of the matter is, they kept the race green while Spencer Boyd was crashed on the backstretch, a crash that had resulted in him suffering a dislocated shoulder. Like, how in the fuck do you miss something like that? I mean, I thought you had spotters stationed all over the racetrack to let you know that something's going on. So, who dropped the fucking ball here, is what I want to know. Okay? Absolutely fucking unacceptable. I mean, this could have been a lot more serious than what Spencer Boyd had. I mean, from what I heard, it was a pretty hard crash, and he's lucky that he got away with just a dislocated shoulder. But let's be honest here, in the old days, you know, in the 90s, early 2000s, this could have been a lot worse, and NASCAR would have looked a lot worse for it. I'll put it to you like that. But that's pretty much it. Not really much in the way of news this week. So without further ado, let's get into the review itself. With the Pennzoil 400 presented by Jiffy Lube, our 128th episode of The Fuel. Of course, the title of the episode, A Worrying Trend Has Emerged, which of course is the caution trend. like I've been talking about. But give me 1 second here. Get my notes out here. Of course, I always take a lot of detailed notes during the race, because that's kind of what you're supposed to do for a review. So, here we go. 2022 Pennzoil 400 at the Las Vegas Motor Speedway. So 4 drivers had to go to the rear of the field. Kyle Busch, because he had to go to a backup car, which was actually a parts car. It was basically a shell that didn't have any of the parts and pieces in it. So they had to go through a 7-8 hour job to get that car race ready, and damn near won with it. Tyler Reddick had to go to the rear because he had to change his steering rack. Daniel Hemrick had to go to the rear because they had to change the transaxle cooling lines, and Cole Custer had to go to the rear for an engine part change, all of which are unapproved adjustments. 1 second, I'm getting a drink. Mountain Dew Spark. Alright, so the stages broke down like this. Stage 1 was 80 laps, Stage 2 85 laps, and Stage 3 102 laps. So quite a bit different from the past 2 weeks. So let's start with stage number 1, 80 laps. Christopher Bell starts from the pole for the first time in his Cup career. He leads lap number 1 as the field fans out behind him. Briscoe gets by Cindric on the outside for third. Larson gets loose in turn 1 but hangs on. That happened quite a bit in this race. Hamlin gets by Elliott for 5th. Cindric does the same thing Larson did on lap 5 but hangs on. There's quite a few bumps in turns 1 and 3 that can get a car loose. We have a battle for 4th between Hamlin, Blaney, and Briscoe. Elliott starts dropping like a rock back to 12th on lap 9. Logano gets by Larson for 2nd, but the battle is now on between Logano, Hamlin, Larson, and Blaney for that position. Bowman starts closing in on the foursome, battling for 2nd. So the top 6 at this point are Gibbs, Penske, and Hendrick Motorsports. Truex up to 7th after starting from the 12th position. We have a battle for 8th between Byron, Briscoe, and Chastain. The battle for 2nd heats up between Blaney and Hamlin. And we have our first caution on lap 31, which was the competition caution. Getting a little fucking sick and tired of the competition cautions. Get rid of them. They're completely fucking worthless. Everyone comes in for service, and Ryan Blaney wins the race off pit road. So Blaney leads on the restart. Bowman up to 2nd and starts challenging Blaney for the lead. But we get our second caution on lap 38 when Cole Custer spins in turn 2 after getting loose. Reddick was reporting at this point that he was on the rev limiter chip, and Kyle Busch was reporting that something was wrong with the shifter, or whether it was a linkage or whatever the case was. And during that competition caution, Larson had to pit for a loose lug. It's a good thing that he caught that, because you don't want a tire coming off based on how stiff NASCAR has been with penalties. So Blaney leads on the restart, but immediately afterwards we get our third caution on lap 43. We have a multi-car spin as Austin Dillon washes up into Justin Haley, which causes the 31 to spin. At the same time, Kyle Busch almost spins after getting tagged from behind by Daniel Hemrick, but he hangs on to it because he's Kyle Busch and he's insufferably good at driving a race car. Bowman leads on the restart. Truex up to 3rd on the restart. We have 3 wide for the lead between Bowman, Blaney, and Hamlin in turn 3. And we finally have our first pure lead change on lap 50 when Denny Hamlin takes over the lead. Battle for 6th between Chastain, Bell, and Elliott. Truex gets by Bowman for 4th. Larson joins the battle for 6th. And we get our 4th caution on lap 63 when Tyler Reddick spins in turn 4 and down through the grass. Everyone comes in for service, and Almirola wins the race off pit road. Yes, Eric Almirola. Kurt Busch stays out and inherits the lead. Truex gets penalized for equipment interference. Apparently a tire rolled away into another driver's pit box, and that is considered equipment interference. Kurt Busch leads on the restart. Corey LaJoie and Cole Custer also stayed out, and there was a mad scramble for the lead. And it pretty much proved that old tires was just not the way to go. We have our second pure lead change when William Byron takes over the lead on lap 70. We had lots of 4 wide on this restart. Hamlin was reporting power steering issues at this point. Chastain was up to 4th. He had a great run in this race. Bowman gets by Byron for the lead in turn 1 for a third pure lead change on lap 78. Hamlin and Elliott battle for the 4th position, and Alex Bowman wins stage 1. Everyone comes in for service. Keselowski takes 2 tires and wins the race off pit road. And Kyle Busch was apparently a little bit peeved at Briscoe for basically blocking him on a restart. And Chase Briscoe's like, he's just mad that he wrecked the car this weekend. Yeah, well, that little tidbit of a radio chatter would come back to bite him in the ass later on, because he would end up out of the race while Kyle Busch battled for the win. So we come to stage number 2, which is 85 laps. Michael McDowell stayed out and leads on the start of stage 2. Again, a bad move. Keselowski leads the first lap on the restart, 3 wide throughout the field. Hamlin blows by Keselowski for the lead on the outside of turn 4 for a fourth pure lead change on lap 91. Then we get our 5th caution on lap 93 when Michael McDowell pushes up into Chase Briscoe after getting loose. Briscoe tries to avoid but gets loose himself and gets into Daniel Suarez, who gets spun into the outside wall nose first and is taken completely out of the race, which sucks. So Hamlin leads on the restart. Chastain moves up to 2nd on the restart. Jones tries to take Larson, Blaney, and Truex 4 wide down the backstretch after Larson had to back out to avoid hitting Keselowski, who was still on, the old tires. Kyle Busch was up to 4th on lap 103, and then we have our 6th caution on lap 104 when Keselowski spins in turn 4 and backs into the wall. Blaney, with nowhere to go, plows into the 6, completely destroys the front end of the 12 car, and that's the end of his day. It's funny that the people who were staying out on old tires were involved in both of the cautions in this stage so far. Almost like old tires wasn't working out. Everyone comes in for service. Briscoe takes fuel only and wins the race off pit road. Kyle Busch also stays out and leads on the restart. There's 4 wide on the restart once again. Kyle Larson starts slicing and dicing up to a battle for 2nd with Chastain. Then Chastain gets by Kyle Busch for the race lead for a 5th pure lead change on lap 113. Larson challenges Chastain for lead, but he gets big loose in turn 4, like it should have been wrecked kind of loose, but somehow hangs on to the damn thing. Bowman gets by Kyle Busch for 3rd. Truex gets by Byron for 6th, and then by Kyle Busch for 5th. Larson gets by Bowman for 3rd, and then Christopher Bell gets by Truex for 5th, and then by Bowman for 4th. Then we have our 7th caution on lap 134 when Cindric spins in turn 3, possibly from a flat tire, and gets into Harrison Burton, who just barely scrapes by with a little bit of damage. Could have been a lot worse, though. But at the same time, Briscoe spins in front of the 2 and destroys his own car. So, yeah. Remember earlier when I said that little radio chatter about Kyle Busch was going to come back and bite him? There you go. Let's put him out of the race. Everyone comes in for service, and Larson wins the race off pit road. Hamlin loses a lot of spots when the air hose gets caught under the right front tire. They basically let the car down, and the hose gets caught underneath the right front tire. Ouch. And Bowman gets penalized for equipment interference. So he goes to the rear. Larson leads on the restart. Bell and Chastain battle for 2nd, but then we get our 8th caution on lap 142 when Christopher Bell loses it on the high side and spins, and Harrison Burton spins on the backstretch to avoid the 20. But both were able to continue with minimal damage. Even though Bell's car was kind of doing the bouncing thing like the hip-hop artist likes to do with their cars, but that goes bouncy, bouncy, bouncy. Although in this case it was a flat right rear tire that was doing that. But Larson leads on the restart. Hemrick hits the wall in turn 2 but keeps going, which I guess is a good thing about these cars. They can smack the wall, but they don't do any tire damage, at least not as much tire damage as it did in the past. Chastain gets by Elliott for 2nd. We have a battle for 3rd between Elliott, Byron, Kyle Busch, and Truex. Chastain gets by Larson for the race lead for a 6th pure lead change on lap 159. This would end up being the final pure lead change of the day. And Kyle Busch scrapes the wall in turn 4. Elliott gets by Larson for 2nd, and Ross Chastain wins stage number 2, giving Trackhouse their first stage win. Everyone comes in for service, and Chastain wins the race off pit road. So now we come to stage number 3, 102 laps. Chastain leads the start of stage 3. Cole Custer with engine issues before the restart, so they had to push him to the garage. Chastain and Kyle Busch were side by side for 3 consecutive laps. They just could not get away from each other, but Chastain eventually won that battle. Stenhouse and Buescher were banging sheet metal down the stretch, which I thought Fox didn't see until they showed a replay. From what I heard, the pre-race show was absolutely god-awful from some people. I know Eric Estep commented on it, as well as Jeff Gluck. One second. OBS went screwy for a second, but it looks like we're okay. But yeah, Jeff Gluck and Eric Estep kind of made a comment about how the pre-race show is absolutely god-awful. I didn't watch the pre-show. I don't give a fuck about the pre-show. I just wait till the race comes on and then we start covering it. So, there you go. But that's something else that was kind of a major talking point from today. So, Elliott gets by Larson for third, but then it turns into a 3-way battle with Truex, which turns into a 5-way battle when Byron and Bowman join the fray. All 400 cars were 4th through 7th at this point with 72 laps to go. We were finally settling into a long green flag run. Elliott's dropping back a bit on this run. Hamlin gets by Byron for 6th. Things start settling down a bit, but then Byron smacks the wall in turn 4 and thinks he knocked the toe out. Larson also brushed the wall in turn 4. Both drivers keep going though. Austin Dillon kicks off green flag pit stops with 55 laps to go. Truex gets by Kyle Busch for 2nd. Chastain and Truex pit with 49 laps to go. Then we get our 9th caution on lap 221 right in the middle of green flag stops when Hamlin basically breaks the transmission and spins on the apron coming off a pit road. What he basically did, and this was basically like muscle memory, because the way that the new transmission works, like the new shifter, it doesn't have the H-style shifter anymore. It has all the way forward is reverse, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. It goes like that now. Well, Hamlin, I guess due to muscle memory, accidentally shifted it forward when he should have shifted it backwards. And he basically broke the transmission. And basically spun, and they had to throw the caution because his car came to a halt because he had no gears. So, that was a no mistake right there for Hamlin, who has not had a top 10 finish so far this year, believe it or not. And neither has Ryan Blaney. Yet, God, I can't remember his name at this point. Eric Almirola, shows you how tired I am a little bit here. Eric Almirola has 3 top 10s at this point. Wrap your head around that shit, considering how bad Eric Almirola's season was last year. I mean, yeah, he had the win at New Hampshire, but I mean, other than that, what the fuck? Oh, I forgot to turn background music on. Whoopsie doodle. But it's on now, so that's all that matters. But yeah, kind of crazy how shit can change year to year. Stenhouse stays out and gets lucky with a caution, and so does Ty Dillon. Larson gets nabbed for speeding, so he has to go to the rear on this restart. So Kyle Busch leads on the restart. He actually managed to get ahead because he actually pitted 1 lap earlier than the others and got an advantage with the fresh tires. So he leads on the restart. Truex gets by Bowman for 3rd. Byron gets by Stenhouse for 5th. And it was at this point that we were looking like we were going to have a green flag run all the way to the finish, which would have been nice to see. We have a 3-way fight for the lead between Kyle Busch, Chastain, and Truex. Truex and Chastain battle hard for the 2nd position, which allows Kyle Busch to get away. Truex starts slowly closing the gap to Kyle Busch for the race lead with 20 laps to go, and then he starts challenging him for the lead, going high, going low. At one point, Truex actually had the lead. He actually managed to clear Kyle, but then Kyle did the crossover move and took it back down the front stretch, which was pretty crazy. So great battling between teammates here. Lap cars were playing a little bit of havoc with the JGR cars. Bowman managed to catch Chastain for 3rd in the waning laps, and it's looking like it's going to go green to the end. But then, never fucking fails. We have our 10th caution on lap 265 when Eric Jones gets loose in turn 4, basically runs out of talent, and slams the wall. He spins back up the track, and Bubba Wallace spins trying to avoid him, and he hits the inside wall, pretty much tears the right front off of his car. I mean, this is almost like 2020 all over again, where we had a long green flag run, we had a great battle developing, and then the fucking caution comes out, and we go to overtime, and it's a giant clusterfuck. We didn't have a giant clusterfuck here, but it felt like a manufactured finish. I mean, this caution completely ruined the finish for me. I know that might not appeal to some people, but I mean, that's just my opinion. And if you don't like it, you're just going to have to fucking get over it. Everyone comes in for service. Larson, Bowman, and Byron takes just 2 tires and get out ahead of Kyle Busch, who takes 4 tires. So Larson leads on the first overtime restart, but it's Bowman and Larson side by side coming to the white flag. Kyle Busch is not able to try to get a run on him because he's side by side with William Byron, and it basically was stalling him out. And then down the back stretch on the final lap, Bowman and Larson are side by side. Bowman basically sends it in. Larson tries to do the same, but Bowman has the better bite off of the turn and actually clears Larson to steal the win at Las Vegas. Yes, he absolutely fucking stole this win. Let's just be completely honest here. I mean, good on Bowman. He got the win, which I think is his 7th career win. But let's be honest here. He absolutely stole this win. It was highway robbery. The wrong guy won this race. That's just my opinion on the matter. But, you know, what else do you expect? And that was your lot from the Pennzoil 400. So let's go ahead and get into the stats and awards. So, stats and awards from this race. First, let's take a look at statistics. It was a 267 lap race. Stages 80, 85, and 102. We had 23 overall lead changes in this race, and only 6 pure lead changes during this race. So both the least so far. 10 caution flags. Of course, I don't count the stage cautions, but still, double-digit cautions once again. Not a fan of that, as I've said before. And we had 3,271 green flag passes. So the average is a little bit less than Auto Club, but we did see a lot more green flag passes than we saw at Auto Club. We had a lot less green flag racing at Auto Club than we did at Las Vegas. So the average is a little bit skewed, but we did see more green flag passes than we did at Auto Club. Lap leader award goes to Ross Chastain, who led 83 laps in this race, the most laps he's led in a single race. In fact, it's more than he led in his entire career up to that point, which makes him my star of the race. I mean, Trackhouse Racing, brand new team. Of course, he's coming over from Chip Ganassi, driving the 1 car, and he did himself proud in this race. I mean, basically no mistakes. Came home with a top 3 finish, a podium finish basically, and did himself proud. So, good job to Ross Chastain. He is the star of the race. Reject of the race, Eric Jones. This might seem a little unfair, but I mean, he basically ran out of talent in turn 4, caused that last caution, and completely ruined what was a natural finish. In fact, there was one guy on Twitter. Let me find it here. Profile. Likes. So, and I actually agree with this. So, display capture, and I'll show it here. GWC ruined another great natural finish. They're so pointless, you don't even race. It takes half a lap to get to speed. It's always whoever gets away in first and second. Everyone behind is screwed by dirty air. It just causes crashes, and screwed finish with the playoffs, it's worse. I actually agree with that. It completely ruined the finish for me. And Eric Jones was basically the catalyst. That might seem a little unfair, but I really don't care. This is my review. Get the fuck over it. So, moving on to race results and point standings. Your top 10 finishers for the Pennzoil 400, Alex Bowman with the win. Kyle Larson comes home in second, gets denied a back-to-back deal. Ross Chastain with a third place finish, led 83 laps on the day. Kyle Busch in fourth. Really should have won this race. Let's just be completely honest here. Led 49 laps. William Byron came home in fifth, led 8 laps. Eric Almirola in sixth. He's finished in the top 10 in all 3 races this year. In fact, there was a stat that kind of blew my mind that they came up with. There have been 25 different drivers that have finished in the top 10 already in 2022. The last time there were that many drivers that had top 10 finish was 1973. Nearly half a century ago. Yeah. Tyler Reddick comes home in 7th. He had to slide through the grass, and he also had to start from the rear of the field, and comes home with a top 10. Martin Truex Jr. had a strong car. Probably could have finished runner-up, but ends up in 8th. Again, that fucking caution ruined everything. Chase Elliott comes home in 9th, had an up-and-down day, and so did Christopher Bell, who comes home in the 10th position. Point standings after 3 races. Larson leads the way with 113. Truex is 2nd. 6 points back. Joey Logano is 3rd. Austin Cindric drops to 4th. Now 10 points back. Kyle Busch moves up to 5th. 11 points back. Eric Almirola in 6th, looking a lot better than he did at this point last year. Then you have Chase Elliott. Alex Bowman moves up to 8th with his win. Bubba Wallace and Austin Dillon round out the top 10. They're tied for the 9th position. Then you have Kurt Busch and Brad Keselowski tied for 11th. Ryan Blaney, Eric Jones, Chase Briscoe, and Kevin Harvick and Ricky Stenhouse are tied for the 16th position. And then you have Tyler Reddick, Ty Dillon, and Ross Chastain rounding out the top 20. As for my final rating for the Pennzoil 400, like I said, I had a lot of mixed feelings about this race. I mean, it was a solid race overall. I mean, if we would have seen a long green flag run to end that race with a finish that was a natural finish, this race probably would have gotten a 7 or maybe even an 8. But combined with the fact that we had double-digit cautions once again, and that last caution completely ruined the finish for me, I mean, that's going to drop some points off the score right there. So my final rating for this race, I'm going to give it a 6 on the fuel gauge. So like I said, it was a solid race. I mean, it wasn't boring by any stretch of the imagination. It was just, there were way too many fucking caution flags. I mean, when they were green, the racing was good. Like, it really was. But, I mean, these drivers, I mean, I don't know. They need to do something to try to keep these cars under control for the most part, because, I mean, it's a worrying trend, as the episode's name suggests. It's a worrying trend. We're seeing a lot more cautions than we have in years past, and, I'm just not a fan of caution flags. So, I mean, my standards are a little bit different than everybody else's, and, that's fine. I mean, some people might not mind the caution flags, but I do. I mean, it slows the action down. It makes a lot of races feel, especially races that have a lot of caution flags, they really drag on forever. So that's one of the reasons why I don't like caution flags. So it does get a little bit of a hit in the score this week. But, I mean, there hasn't been a score that's dropped below average yet so far this year. So, I mean, that says something about this new car. It's just that we need to try to clean up the cautions a little bit. I mean, try to have a lot fewer cautions, because, I mean, we had 7 at Daytona, and then double-digit cautions at Auto Club and Vegas. I mean, we got to try to clean it up a little bit. But that's going to do it for tonight's edition of the Fuel. A little bit shorter review than usual. Mainly not because of not much in the way of news this week. But we'll get back after it next week at Phoenix. So thank you very much for watching. And until next time, this is the Packer Man signing out. See you later. Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you jackweeds.